Good evening and welcome to Total Football Analysis's live coverage of Liverpool versus Arsenal from the English Premier League. It's a huge game, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by two expert analysts this evening. First of all, Lee Scott, welcome back. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you, Harry. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, my friend. Not too bad. Don't know if I'm looking forward to this one or not. I'm not entirely sure how I'm supposed to feel about this one. Also joining us is Cam Megan. Cam, how you doing, mate? Welcome.
Hi, mate. Cheers for having me back on.
No problem, my friend. The pleasure is all ours. And just to make it clear, Cam is a Liverpool fan, so we can't be accused of bias tonight. We're going half and half. We've got Lee on the neutral side, and myself and Cam will be also taking you through this one. Let's start off by looking at the two sides. There's around about 7 minutes until kickoff. In Liverpool's side, it's Alisson Becker in goal. It's a back four of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Joe Gomez returns to the side alongside Virgil van Dijk, and Andy Robertson, as expected, plays at left back. In the middle of the park, there's no Thiago Alcantara this evening. He's out injured, which means Naby Keita, Fabinho and Jorginho Wijnaldum are Liverpool's midfield three, with Mohamed Salah, Roberto Firmino and Sadio Mane in attack. From Arsenal's side, it's Bernd Leno in goal. Rob Holding continues in the side. David Luiz and Kieran Tierney have also been selected, meaning there's no place in the starting 11 for Gabriel, despite a positive start to his Arsenal career. Ainsley Maitland-Niles starts at left wing back, with Hector Bellerin at right wing back. Granit Xhaka and Mohamed Elneny have been chosen in the middle, with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Alexander Lacazette and Willian leading the attack for Arsenal. Lee, anything that jumps out to you in those two sides?
I think I'll probably take Arsenal and leave the Liverpool team to Cam. I think looking at Arsenal, it is surprising to me that Gabriel's been left out. You and I, Harry, covered the first game of the season away to Fulham, and Gabriel was one of the standout players during the match. His defensive performance as well as his performance in possession really stood out. I think it's quite possibly just a question of fitness and match sharpness. They obviously looking to get minutes into other players' legs, and Gabriel's the one who misses out. Of course, it's great to see Kieran Tierney back in the side. I think that having Tierney as a left-sided central defender just balances the Arsenal team out from an attacker and defensive standpoint. Interest as well that Mohamed Elneny again comes into the midfield. I was really impressed with him in that match against Fulham. There was a lot of good in terms of his ability to break up the play and then just do the simple thing, do the next right thing, if you like, when he wins the ball back. He constantly looked for the out ball to Willian or to Bellerin coming up on that outside, and it just allowed Arsenal to progress the ball really cleanly. So looking forward to seeing exactly how they can affect this Liverpool side, which is obviously, we know exactly what to expect from Liverpool. So it's just a case of whether Arsenal can find a way to hit them in transition, as I'm sure they're going to look to.
Cam, what are your thoughts on the Liverpool side? Obviously, Thiago isn't available. Is that going to be a big blow, given that we expect Arsenal to kind of set up with a low block this evening?
Yeah, I think that midfield was probably the only real talking point in the starting 11. Obviously, you mentioned Naby Keita comes in for him. I think probably at the end of last season, he was still struggling to settle into life in Liverpool, it looked like. But after lockdown, he really seemed to kick on. And against these, in these kind of games, he's excellent in those tight little spaces that you don't really see a way out for him. And he just somehow gets out of it. So I think Thiago is definitely a blow. I mean, in terms of why he was probably signed for these type of games with a high positional play element. So Liverpool are going to be trying to break down Arsenal for most of the game, and Thiago is obviously kind of a specialist in this area. So Fabinho is going to have to try and adopt that role as much as he can, and Naby Keita as well, using his offensive ability of just dribbling those tight spaces and getting in the half space as much as possible.
We're seeing the two sides make their way out onto the pitch. Arsenal are out already, just awaiting Liverpool. Here they come. Lee, are you worried about the absence of Thiago? I mean, Liverpool's side have shown that they've got enough to, well, they ran away with the Premier League without him. So shouldn't be that much of a concern, should it?
I think that Cam touched upon it and was completely right that this is the kind of fixture that Thiago was really bought for, if you like. His ability from central areas to progress the ball through tight, compact spaces and to find the spaces into the feet of the Liverpool forwards would have been something that would have been really helpful tonight. I think that we've seen now the blueprint on how to beat this Liverpool side without Thiago, without that central progression option. We'll see Arsenal look to negate the threat from the fullbacks from Liverpool. They'll look to press up on Trent Alexander-Arnold and deny him the opportunity to come forward, much the same way that Leeds did in the opening match day when they did a really good job of overloading that side of the field and just stopping Trent Alexander-Arnold from getting the ball and getting forward in any meaningful way. They'll look to do the same thing on the left-hand side as well. And then there's a lot of onus on Liverpool being able to play more direct passes to access the likes of Mane and Salah quicker, and perhaps without the support that they would need to really be able to overload this Arsenal defence. I think Thiago just gives them a little bit more balance, which would have been really helpful in this match.
Let's quickly run through the two sides again for those of you who are just joining us. You can see an influx of people joining the stream just now. So quickly, it's Alisson in goal, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk and Andy Robertson at the back for Liverpool. Naby Keita, Fabinho and Jorginho Wijnaldum make up the midfield trio with Mohamed Salah, Roberto Firmino and Sadio Mane in attack. For Arsenal, it's Bernd Leno in goal, Holding, Lewis and Tierney at the back three, with Maitland-Niles and Bellerin occupying the wing-back positions. Xhaka and Mohamed El-Neni have been selected to anchor Arsenal's midfield, with Willian, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Alexander Lacazette making up the rest of the 11. Let's get some predictions, guys, just quickly before the game begins. First of all, Cam, your prediction for this one?
I'm going to go 2-0 Liverpool. I think it'll be more of a pressure cooker game for them. They've just got to keep tight in when they've got the ball, kind of be patient with it and not allow Arsenal as those kind of dangerous counter-attacks that we know they're capable of.
Lee, how you see this one going?
My only prediction is that one of you two is going to be disappointed by the end of tonight.
Does it? If Liverpool get a draw tonight, will Cam be the disappointed one? Because I definitely won't be.
I would say so. I mean, especially after what happened to Manchester City yesterday when they were demolished by Leicester City. I think that realistically, I know that Everton have started really well, and I'm sure that Cam's extremely happy about how well Everton are doing. I think that realistically, we're still looking at a direct battle between Liverpool and Man City for the title. So any advantage, even this early in the season, can be really important. So yeah, I think that Cam and all Liverpool fans will be expecting a win against Arsenal, but it's not as easy as it used to be under Mikel Arteta and Arsenal.
Teams are taking the knee in support of the Black Lives Matter campaign. We're ready to go here at Anfield. Arsenal in their chain strip of white shirts, reddish shorts and white socks. Liverpool, of course, in their all red, as you'd expect, being the home side. Don't forget, if you're watching us via the Hot Mic app, you can synchronize our broadcast with your television pictures. If you're watching us via YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video. An incredible 17,000 of you across the multiple platforms joined myself and Lee last night for Roma versus Juventus. We're hoping for a better game tonight. Not that that was a bad game, really, but the Premier League action, two of the big traditional six are in action tonight. So fingers crossed we get a good game. Here's Rob Holding for Arsenal, surprisingly included. According to some fans, there were plenty who thought that David Luiz would be moved to the right-hand side of the defence in order to accommodate Gabriel, but that wasn't Mikel Arteta's thinking. Long ball over the top in search of Aubameyang. He'll chase it, but Alisson was on his toes. Alisson forced to put that out for a throw-in. Mikel Arteta watches on. Jurgen Klopp will be hoping to get the better of Mikel Arteta. It's not been all Jurgen Klopp's way, has it, in the first couple of encounters between the two?
It hasn't been, but to be fair, I think Arteta's had such a positive impact on Arsenal as a whole in terms of the club culture, tactical system, so that's only to be expected. There will be some opportunities for him to get the better of coaches who are perhaps more experienced.
And obviously there's not much previous to go by, is there, with Mikel Arteta, in order to, there wouldn't have been there wouldn't have been any meetings before they met at the Emirates Stadium a few months ago.
No, I think realistically, clubs now have enough of a bank of matches. There's enough data, enough footage out there that clubs will be able to get a good idea of how Arsenal will look to play against them. So that advantage will start to break down now. But it's one thing to know what a team's going to do against you. It's quite another to actually be able to plan and to execute and to stop them from doing those things well.
Sadio Mane's raised an arm here and he's caught Kieran Tierney in the face. Tierney's gone down. The Arsenal players are not happy. They're complaining. They want something done about this. What's your take on it, Lee?
I think that Kieran Tierney's from Glasgow. He's had worse than that at primary school.
Sadio Mane's been shown a yellow card for that first booking of the game, and we're not even 3 minutes in yet. Cam, in terms of the shapes of the two teams, is it what you expected?
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously, we haven't got fully settled in yet, but it looks like that 3-4-3 and the 4-3-3 for Liverpool. I think Mane there's just gone to make contact with him, obviously not in his face, and just kind of missed with his arm, really.
Here is Keita for Liverpool. Xhaka wins it off him, plays it forward, but Joe Gomez was alert to it. Tierney heads it back forward, helped on by Maitland-Niles, but Liverpool have it back, and Trent Alexander-Arnold guides it all the way back to Alisson in the Liverpool goal. Here is Joe Gomez into Virgil van Dijk. We've seen in the last few months, Lee, that Virgil van Dijk is actually human, haven't we?
I think there's never been any doubt that he is human. I think that his calmness on the field sometimes belies the fact that he can make mistakes from time to time. He can be exposed, but not easily. He's from a physical perspective, there are a few players out there like him, and that physical capacity allows him to recover very well. And from a technical standpoint, he's one of the best central defenders I've seen in my lifetime. So he may be human, but he certainly operates at a higher level than the rest of us.
You can see from the way Arsenal have lined up that when Mohamed El Neni is in the side, it just gives Granit Xhaka that little bit of extra license to push on. And we were talking about it last night, Lee, weren't we, about the two central midfielders when in possession not being so square. And you're seeing that with this Arsenal side early on.
Yeah, it's really important. If you're playing a double pivot in the midfield, and you have to have depth in that pivot, you have to have one player who's willing to take a position 5-10 yards ahead of the other one, just to allow the ball to progress through the lines. If you have the two of them in the way that Juventus did last night, they were Winston McKennie and Adrian Rabiot were side by side for a lot of the game, and it really stifled their ball progression. So it's important that Xhaka is able to get a little bit further forward just to help Arsenal to move the ball through the midfield.
Ball goes into the box. David Lewis clears it up into the air. Not very far, though. Here is Alexander-Arnold in towards Salah, but Tierney was alert to it. He'll put it out for a Liverpool throw-in on that far side. Liverpool attacking from right to left as you watch on your TV screens. Don't forget, guys, get your predictions, get your thoughts, get your questions all in the live chat, and we'll come to as many of those as we possibly can between now and the end of the broadcast. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Like the video if you haven't already. We'll be bringing you plenty more games over the coming weeks. Here's Van Dijk for Liverpool. Long diagonal searching ball for Robertson, who made the move forward. Here's Mane now into Robertson. Back to Wijnaldum. Lots of speculation about Gini Wijnaldum's future. Will he sign a new Liverpool contract, or will he be on his way at the end of next season? Cam, what are your thoughts on Wijnaldum? Are you thinking that he may just run down his contract now?
Yeah, I think he's probably been at Liverpool a long enough time now and he's probably achieved maybe more than he wanted to. I'd be sad to see him go. I think he's an excellent player, and the player who doesn't get probably much praise just because of the role he plays in the side. He's not the same player he is for Holland. He's not an attacking assist or scoring midfielder, really. His role is really just kind of act as a safety net for Liverpool. So if they do lose the ball, he's one of the best counter-pressing midfielders in the world. And I think he's also really good at dealing with counter-presses, so he can play out of danger and he's really press resistant. So I would be sad to see him go, but adding a midfielder like Thiago is obviously a bonus.
Lacazette goes down there under the challenge of Fabinho. He wants a free kick. He's not going to get one. Here's Wijnaldum for Liverpool into Fabinho. Just turns. Obviously filled in as a centre-back. Last weekend did Fabinho. Did a really, really good job. He's got that about him though, hasn't he, Lee? Fabinho has that flexibility. He can play at centre-back and play at right-back as well.
Yeah, initially when he came across European football with Rio Ave in Portugal, he was a right back, and then when he moved to Real Madrid Castilla, he was a right back. I think when he signed for AS Monaco from Real Madrid, he played as a centre back for a while before eventually playing as a six. And at one point, I believe that he actually argued with the people at Monaco because he saw his future as a central defender, a right back, and didn't want to play in the centre midfield. But it looks like it's turned out quite well for him, that move to a six.
Gives Jurgen Klopp plenty of options. And it might be the reason that Liverpool haven't yet gone out and brought another centre-half in, Cam. Would you agree?
Yeah, I still think we do need to add one. Obviously, if Fabinho does get injured, that then leaves us with only really 3 Premier League quality centre-backs, I'd say. I haven't seen us linked with anybody who's really going to make a difference to that. But yeah, I do think he's obviously capable of playing centre-back. I think the first 5 minutes of the Chelsea game were the only real worry. I think Werner beat him once all game, and then after that, it was plain sailing for him, really. So he's obviously shown his quality there.
Here's Aubameyang for Arsenal on that far side for Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who just strolled offside there. So frustrating to see a player get caught offside when he can look across the whole line.
I've noticed that an interesting aspect in Liverpool's build-up so far, Harry, it's worth watching out for. So far, we've seen Wijnaldum and Keita both take turns at dropping back towards the defensive line just to allow Liverpool to play out through the Arsenal press at the moment. Aubameyang especially is looking to cut off the pass out to the right-hand side where Trent Alexander-Arnold's positioned. So look out for the 2 central midfielders for Liverpool to drop back deeper to receive the ball, then to help progress past the Arsenal midfield.
Interesting. We'll certainly keep an eye out for that. Here is Trent Alexander-Arnold into Virgil van Dijk. Alexander-Arnold plays it forward into Firmino. With Keita now. Here's Van Dijk. Gomez. Gets it back from Trent Alexander-Arnold. Arsenal almost happy enough to let Liverpool have the ball there, but the minute it progresses that little bit further, you see Arsenal's press come into play. Liverpool have to be patient tonight, don't they?
They do. It's going to be difficult for them. They know that they've got to try to break down this Arsenal team, but they also know the danger that Arsenal have in transition. The pace of Aubameyang's caught them before under Arteta, so they know that as soon as they push up too far and make a mistake, that Arsenal will be on them. So it's a balancing act more than anything else.
Here's Robertson, puts the ball across the penalty area. It's blocked by, not sure if it was Holding or Willian, but they both threw themselves in the way there. Well worked from Liverpool. Mane in field to Firmino, and then to Keita. Just looked for Robertson on the far side. Salah was arriving at the far post, but Arsenal defend it effectively. It's a Liverpool corner, the first one of the game. 11 minutes on the clock. Delivered left-footed by Robertson. Met by the head of Hector Bellerin, of all people. Aubameyang helps it on as Arsenal look to break out, but Liverpool will come straight back. Good ball into the box from Alexander-Arnold. And Van Dijk headed it towards the far post. David Luiz had to intervene there. Bit of a mix-up maybe with Bernd Leno. I don't know if David Luiz is insinuating that Bernd Leno should have come and got that, but David Luiz doing his defensive duties. Van Dijk's header looked like it may have been, if not goal-bound, going into the path of Firmino.
And that was all about the quality of the cross from Alexander-Arnold out on the right-hand side. His ability just to wrap his foot around the ball and get that trajectory that few people get on the ball when they clip the ball in from those wide areas.
Here come Liverpool again. Linesman's flagging for a free kick, but Liverpool will play on. Here's Fabinho on the edge of the Arsenal box towards Mane on this near side, just outside the Arsenal penalty area. One-on-one with Bellerin. Lays it off to Keita on the edge of the box. Keita strikes, deflects off Holding, goes out for a Liverpool corner. A little bit of sustained pressure here from the Premier League champions. Took a deflection off of Willian and then off of Holding. Robertson is going to deliver this. Another Liverpool fullback with an excellent delivery on him. Robertson with the low corner. Across came Mo Salah, but his effort skied up into the Anfield Road end. Well worked corner, though, from Liverpool. Cam, what have you made of this little spell of pressure from Liverpool? They're starting to get on top here.
Yeah, it's exactly what Liverpool need to do. They need to keep going with that sustained pressure, just keep attacks, even if it does break down, just make sure Arsenal don't really find a way to push out and break some of that momentum. So just sustain the pressure and eventually it should pay its dividends.
Don't forget this broadcast is for Total Football Analysis. We are also broadcasting on the Chronicles of Aguna YouTube channel, as well as the Total Football Analysis YouTube channel 2 and Facebook page. We're on so many platforms at the moment, I can't even remember them all. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Hot Mic. Give us a follow. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Here's Aubameyang. Looking for Maitland-Niles. The pass was all wrong, though. Maitland-Niles is going to close down Gomez. Gomez almost allowing Maitland-Niles to get a foot in there. Xhaka just hooks it over the Liverpool man's head, but it finds Fabinho and it eventually finds Alisson. Elsewhere in the Premier League earlier today, Fulham 0, Aston Villa 3. Really good away win for Dean Smith's side and a really worrying defeat for Scott Parker, you'd say.
I think it's a sign that Fulham are going to find it very difficult this season. Great for Aston Villa to get a second win, I believe. That's 6 points from 2 games, which is great for them, but Fulham have got a long, hard season ahead of them.
For sure. Alexander-Arnold puts this in the box. Mane forces a fine save out of Bernd Leno. That's the closest anybody's gone so far. Real chance for Liverpool. Good stop from Leno. Instinctive stop, wasn't it?
It was, and that's what he gives you when he was missing last season. Emi Martinez did well, but Leno is a great shot stopper. The ball comes in there. It's a great delayed run from Mane just to move into the edge of the 6-yard box, and he makes good contact. I think the only thing you could say is perhaps trying to get it to the side of the goalkeeper slightly more. If you're getting a better contact than that, better technique just to guide the ball to the side, and that makes it more difficult, but straight at the goalkeeper.
Cam, Liverpool's first real sight of goal. They've had 4 attempts so far. That's the closest they've been. Encouraging signs, though, from Jurgen Klopp's side.
Yeah, and it's just like I said before the game, you saw to start the whole attack, really, it was Naby Keita going into that space and combining, obviously, with Trent Alexander-Arnold for the cross. He's going to continue to try and do that throughout the game. I think that's going to be a key area for them. They've got to try and create that overload because at times, especially against the back three, it is too easy sometimes for the centre-backs just to man-mark the likes of Mo Salah and just not really allow Liverpool a way of progressing the ball.
Here is Gomez for Liverpool to Van Dijk. 16 minutes on the clock. It's still 0-0 at Anfield, but Liverpool carried the most threat so far, as you'd probably expect. 4 attempts at goal compared to Arsenal's none so far. Here's Fabinho in the middle of the park for Liverpool. Finds Van Dijk, who's pushed all the way up to the halfway line. Now Robertson. Back inside to Van Dijk. Into Keita. Arsenal maintaining their shape. Liverpool knocking the ball around, trying to unlock the Arsenal defence. It's like a throwback to the George Graham days, isn't it, Lee?
I think that's maybe taking that a step too far. I don't think that George Graham would ever play with 3 forwards this way somehow.
Boring Arsenal, as the saying goes.
My consciousness as far as football related just starts at the period at which Arsene Wenger took charge of Arsenal and they signed Dennis Bergkamp. So things got better from there.
They certainly did. It was certainly better on the eye anyway. As Van Dijk plays a ball forward. Not sure who his intended target was there, but the ball was overhit and Holding will retrieve it. It's back with Leno now. Plays it out to the left-hand side towards Kieran Tierney. It's a really sloppy pass from Bernd Leno, and there's just no need to do that and put yourselves under pressure, is there?
No, it's a good, then the bad from Leno. A good shot stopper, but with his feet, he's lacking at the top level, and that's why you feel as though eventually Arsenal will move on to a new goalkeeper because of the way that Arteta wants to play. There, it was an opportunity to play past the Liverpool press, but he just couldn't get the weight of the pass right at all.
And you could see what they were trying to do, can't you? They were trying to suck them in as they did in the Community Shield final. But if you haven't got a goalkeeper capable of playing those passes, it becomes a problem. You see Arsenal doing it again here, inviting pressure, but the passes have to be accurate.
Yeah, they do. And they were better there until the last ball. You need to find a way to progress the ball in more clean fashion than that. Against a press that Liverpool give you, it's not just the speed of the press, it's the angles that the Liverpool forwards press you at. They cut off passing lanes with their bodies as they press the ball, and they do it better than almost any other side in Europe. So very difficult to play through. Arsenal need to make sure that if they're playing those more direct passes to bypass it, they have to be more accurate with the final ball.
For sure. Big hello to Jay in the chat, to Julio, to Carlo, to Connor, to Tony, to Morgan, to Daps, to Zeus Gaming, to Saphir. Lots of you in the live chat. Don't forget, get your questions in for the analysts, guys. You hear enough from me. Have a chat with these guys. You might learn something from their top level analysis. Cam, what's your opening assessment, or your assessment, I should say, of the opening 20 minutes or so?
I think Liverpool are probably fairly happy so far. I mean, we've seen already they've created a few chances. Arsenal so far haven't really found a way to build through that press. Obviously, Liverpool's press, which Lee just mentioned really well, I think it's been pretty solid so far. Arsenal haven't really found a way through. You mentioned that ball by Leno over to a wide player. That's something that Liverpool obviously know about and kind of actively encourage. They don't mind if a team goes long. Just tries those kind of floating passes just because it gives them more time to actually get across and press the ball. But I think Liverpool has stopped any kind of counters, and they've got to just kind of continue, be patient, and try and grind them down with the positional play.
Liverpool just coming forward again. Robertson put a ball into the penalty area, and Granit Xhaka made his way back into the penalty area to clear, and he's had a right go at some of his teammates. It just felt a little bit too easy for Liverpool to break through onto Arsenal's back line. Robertson puts the corner in left-footed. David Luiz heads it to the edge of the box. Alexander-Arnold strikes it. It deflects up onto the crossbar, and that's the closest anyone's come now. Arsenal really, really fortunate to still be at 0-0. Alexander-Arnold with a wonderful strike. Big deflection, though. Xhaka heads this clear, comes back in from Salah, and Leno will gather it. Arsenal have gotten away with one there. Liverpool really, really unlucky. We're just seeing it again. Clean strike from Trent Alexander-Arnold, deflected off Bellerin and up onto the crossbar. Arsenal have dodged the bullet there, Lee.
Absolutely. It looks like that Leno had it covered before the ball deflected off Bellerin's heel. A great clean strike from Trent Alexander-Arnold again. That's what he gives you. There's ability outside the penalty area just to make good contact, great technique, gets over the ball, keeps the volley low and strikes it with power. I think Arsenal are very fortunate the deflection took the ball at the bar and not elsewhere there.
Liverpool still in possession, still dictating the play. Here's Wijnaldum to Robertson, back to Wijnaldum. Feels like Liverpool have learnt their lesson with regards to Arsenal's counter-attacking play, because it's been difficult for the Gunners so far. Ball's back with Joe Gomez now. Squares it to Virgil van Dijk. Let us know in the live chat where you are joining us from as well. Always interested to see where you guys are tuned in from, as Rob Holding puts that out for a Liverpool throw-in. I think it's roughly in line with the penalty spot in front of Arsenal's goal. Wijnaldum takes it short. Miscontrol from the Dutchman. It's gone out for an Arsenal throw-in this time. Bellerin will take it for Arsenal. Not sure what that was given for. Was it a foul throw maybe? Liverpool have the throw in now. Robertson's going to take it into Firmino. Goes back to Virgil van Dijk. Now Joe Gomez back to Van Dijk. Lacazette putting him under a bit of pressure, but feels a little bit half-hearted, the pressing from Lacazette so far. Here's Lewis inside his own 6-yard box. Looks for Maitland-Niles. He's given it away. Liverpool have it. It's Wijnaldum from the edge of the box. Poor strike from the Dutchman. He just never really got hold of it. As a result, Leno makes a comfortable save. But Lee, Arsenal just inviting this pressure, aren't they?
Yeah, it needs to be cleaner. Again, it needs to be cleaner when the ball's coming out in those areas. David Luiz it was lackadaisical. It was just poor. He tried to play the ball back out from his own 6-yard box. The pass didn't even get to a man that was only standing 15 feet away and straight to the feet of a Liverpool player. And that's a let-off again for Arsenal. If they keep gifting Liverpool the ball in these areas, Liverpool will punish them. I think that Arsenal, it's great. I love, this is the kind of football that I like. I like to see teams playing out from the back and progressing through the thirds, but you have to execute when you're doing so, or else you leave yourself in trouble.
It's very high reward, but very high risk football at the same time, isn't it? Here's Lacazette as Arsenal look to get forward dangerously for the first time, maybe. Here's Ainsley Maitland-Niles just inside Liverpool's penalty area. It goes towards the far post. It's a miscue from Robertson. Lacazette's turned it in, and Arsenal are in front against the run of play. 24 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock. It's Liverpool 0, Arsenal 1. Lacazette was clearly in an offside position, but the ball's come off Robertson, and therefore the goal will stand. Lee, that is against the run of play, isn't it?
And that's high reward. We just talked about high risk, high reward with the way that Arsenal were looking to play it from the back. A minute ago, the ball was given away. Liverpool had a chance. This time, the progression was cleaner. The lines of the passes were better, and Arsenal were able to escape the Liverpool press. Robertson, a mistake. Lacazette, he mishits the volley as he spins on the ball, hits it down into the ground, but Alisson's already committed and is already down. The ball just loops up over him. I think that you're right, completely against the run of play, but from a game state point of view, this is a really interesting game now.
Was Alisson anticipating Lacazette to hit that low, and he's gone down, and the guy's completely scuffed it, and it's ended up going over the top of him? Cam, you must be bitterly disappointed to see your team go behind with a goal of that nature.
It just looks like concentration levels. You mentioned it's completely against the run of play, really, but it does come from a phase of build-up from Arsenal, really. You saw they built up past Liverpool's press there. Alexander-Arnold gets drawn forward, doesn't go and win the ball, and then you've got that space to go and deliver that cross. So it's good play from Arsenal. It's kind of what we've seen from them under Arteta so far, but it is against the run of play, and it's poor from Liverpool.
Liverpool give it away here. Here's Mohamed El Neni. It's given away from one Egyptian to another. Salah to El Neni. Here's Bellerin now. Plays the ball inside to Lacazette. Liverpool want an offside. He certainly looked as though he came from an offside position there. Liverpool 0, Arsenal 1 at Anfield. Van Dijk Here's Alexander-Arnold. Liverpool come forward here. Salah inside the penalty area. Salah from the angle. It's a good save from Leno, but it falls to Mane, who turns it in. It's 1-1. Liverpool have responded almost immediately.
And that goal comes from the quality of the pass from Trent Alexander-Arnold. He fires the ball. You're going to see it on your screen now as he takes possession on the right-hand side. He'll fire the ball in the half space where Naby Keita's moved forward. Keita struggled to control it initially. Good advantage played by the referee. But from then on, it's all Mohamed Salah. He breezes past the defender. A good strike. And of course, Sadio Mane is always in the right place. Sadio Mane is a player who plays as a number 9 more than anything else, even from the left-hand side. He's always a good area centrally, and that's an easy finish for him.
Is Kieran Tierney at fault there for allowing Mo Salah to just get across him so easily? I know he's rapid, but he just lets him get the wrong side. And once Salah's the wrong side of you, you're done for.
He's not just rapid, though. He's strong. He's much, much stronger than people think, despite his frame. Very powerful in the way that he moves at his low centre of gravity. He's very difficult to stop when he gets the run on you like that. So, yeah, Tierney could have done better, but a lot of defenders get beaten in that situation by Salah.
It's Liverpool 1, Arsenal 1. Alexander Lacazette gave the Gunners the lead, but Sadio Mane has responded. Streeper in the comments says Tierney got skinned. He certainly did. But here come Arsenal again. Here's Aubameyang. Just under half an hour on the clock. Game sprung into life in these last few minutes after a bit of a laboured start. Here's Rob Holding. Plays it back in field to David Luiz. Ball played back to Leno. Alisson just comes outside of his penalty area to try and deal with that. He's hooked it up in the air. Van Dijk has to head it out for a throw-in. Not great from Alisson. Looks as though Liverpool have been given a free kick, though. Was Lacazette offside? Did he commit a foul? Not entirely sure what that was given for. Here is Robertson down on this near side on the halfway line. Here's Firmino. Now Alisson to Joe Gomez. Back to Van Dijk. Cam, delighted to get back into the game straight away.
Yes, really important moment in the game. Obviously, the longer the game goes on and Liverpool are chasing it, the easier it is for Arsenal to go and get another. So it's a really important goal. And it's really good by Naby Keita there in the half space just to get into that position in the first place. You then see Firmino comes alongside him, and David Luiz obviously can't deal with those two players. Get a little bit of luck with that ricochet, but kind of earn it by getting into that position in the first place. And then it's just kind of that quintessential goal where it's Salah and Mane combining.
Granit Xhaka almost got himself in hot water there. But to be fair, the pass from Hector Bellerin to him on the edge of his box when he's got two players around him just felt so needless. Arsenal take this short. David Luiz inside his own 6-yard box again. This time he looks for Aubameyang. It's put straight back into the Arsenal penalty area though. Xhaka hooks it away. Gomez takes it down. Looks for Alexander-Arnold. Finds Maitland-Niles instead. It's with Luiz again. When in possession, Arsenal's formation very much does sort of change, doesn't it, Lee? You sometimes see Xhaka tuck in as that third centre-back. Sometimes you see it become a back four with Tierney at left-back and Maitland-Niles pushing on that bit further.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what somebody like Kieran Tierney gives you. You saw it in that basic play just a second ago when Xhaka actually tried to dribble out from the left centre-back position and lost the ball. Before that, he dropped deeper and waved Tierney back along the left-hand flank to try and offer width. It's Celtic and a more possession-heavy team, really, isn't it? dominated every game they played, to be perfectly honest. Tierney was a very, very attacking left fullback, so it's interesting to see his dual role here.
Cross in from Keita there, beaten away by Bernd Leno. Liverpool have a throw in right down by that corner flag on their right, Arsenal's left. 32 minutes on the clock. Go ahead, mate.
Liverpool very clever at the moment. They're starting to get Keita into that more advanced position, a more advanced 8 role in the half space. And because Arsenal have two central midfielders, they're struggling to pick up that run. If one of them goes too close to Keita, they leave that the opposite side underloaded. So Keita's getting a lot of joy just now by pushing higher up the field. Arsenal are going to have to find a way to negate that space soon.
They certainly are. Tierney will deal with this. He puts it out for a Liverpool throw-in, which Alexander-Arnold will take quickly to Gomez. Van Dijk inside the centre circle. Is it square to Gini Wijnaldum? Robertson plays it back in field to the Dutchman. Here's Mo Salah. To Fabinho. Now Van Dijk. Here is Joe Gomez. To Van Dijk. Here's Trent Alexander-Arnold. Van Dijk plays a long diagonal ball out to the right-hand side where Firmino is taken up position out there. Here's Salah, just inside the Arsenal penalty area, twisting, turning, lays it off to Alexander-Arnold. He puts it into the penalty area. It falls to Robertson at the far post, and Robertson puts Liverpool in front, and he's made up for that error in the first goal. Liverpool 2, Arsenal 1. Andy Robertson, the goal scorer. Again, a wonderful cross from Trent Alexander-Arnold. Arsenal need to do something to stop those crosses at source. But it's come into the penalty area, and there was Robertson, and he made no mistake with the finish.
Definitely. It's easier said than done, though. You know that Alexander-Arnold's going to cross the ball in that way. You can see him. He just waits for the ball to come out to the corner penalty area and puts great weight on it. Lucky that the ball falls to Robertson coming into that back post, but you have to wonder who was following him in. You see Elneny there, or Willian, I think it is, trying to work back, but Robertson's completely free at the back of the penalty area, and that's a relatively easy finish. And yes, he's made up for his mistake now.
You see both Bellerin and Holding getting drawn in to the ball there. Willian perhaps should have done a little bit better in tracking his man.
Yeah, I think that Bellerin has to do better, to be perfectly honest. He doesn't have to go inside. He should be hanging back and taking care of that threat. But good to see the battle of Scottish left backs being won at the moment by Andy Robertson.
Cam, your take on the goal?
I think it's been a trend in the game so far. Liverpool keep accessing that half space or that wide area, and then they're going backwards to Trent Alexander-Arnold or Andy Robertson. And every time Arsenal kind of don't have a player anywhere near either of the fullbacks, so they do have that free cross. So I think Arsenal do have to try and find a way just to stay a little bit more compact when they can, so those wingers can track back and stop those crosses. Because at the moment, I think they've had 3 or 4 chances now where that exact play's kind of happened.
Agreed. Alexander-Arnold just had a shot on goal there. Just was over. Wasn't troubling Bernd Leno at all. It was rising all the time. Arsenal have a goal kick around about 10 minutes until half-time. It's important that Arsenal get in at half-time without conceding another one. And Liverpool will probably be smelling blood at the moment and feeling like if they do get a third before the break, they could really put this game to bed. Here is Mo Salah. Infield to Keita in that half space that you guys have been talking about. Tierney hooks that clear. It's gone out for a Liverpool throw-in.
The thing is now for Arsenal and for any other Premier League team watching this, it looks as though Liverpool have still got levels to go through. It looks like Arsenal are struggling to find any ideas, any way to break them down in any coherent manner. But Liverpool just look to be playing within themselves. You get the impression that if they had to, they could go out and score another 2 or 3 goals here.
Here's Mane. Now Van Dijk. Alexander-Arnold. Back to Gomez. Now Van Dijk again. I feel like I've said Van Dijk's name more than anybody else's. He gets on the ball so often for Liverpool, doesn't he?
It's interesting, but it's been a feature of the way that Liverpool have played. Whenever they play against a team that tried to take away the fullbacks, Van Dijk tends to be the player who is left to progress the ball most often for Liverpool. So he's so comfortable in possession, and if you give him time, he can pick up those progressive passes as well. He's an attacking threat as well as a defensive stalwart for this Liverpool side. That's part of what makes him so special.
Here is Wijnaldum. There's a little bit of pressure from Willian. Goes back to Alisson in the end. .37.5 minutes on the clock. It's Liverpool 2, Arsenal 1. Lacazette opened the scoring for the Gunners. Before goals from Sadio Mane and then Andy Robertson turned this one on its head. Here is Hector Bellerin. Back to Holding. Now Leno. Clears it long this time. Gomez has time to take it down on his chest and pick out a teammate. Alexander-Arnold coming forward again. Another delivery into the box. This time, Luiz deals with it. Maitland-Niles heads it back infield. Xhaka takes it down and gives it back to the wing-back. Infield to Mohamed El Neni. Just turns. Squares it to Holding under pressure from Mane. He plays a loose ball, which Firmino lays onto Wijnaldum. Liverpool coming forward again. Mane, Robertson making the run again. It's good defensive work from Willian that time. Got his body in front of Robertson and drew the foul out of the Scottish fullback.
And again, we're seeing mistakes from Arsenal. You see Rob Holding look to play the ball. It's a simple ball into the midfield, but he misplaces the pass and Wijnaldum's away. I think that Arsenal are very fortunate that was Wijnaldum and not Mane or Salah that ball broke to, or they would have kept going into the penalty area. In the end, Willian worked back well this time, perhaps learned his lesson a little bit from the second Liverpool goal, but Arsenal really need to do something to get cleaner with the way they're building up through the back.
Cam, you must be feeling very confident about this game, given the way Liverpool have just taken charge and been bossing the thing from the start, but even more so since Arsenal did open the scoring.
Yeah, I think the big difference in this game compared to other games against Arteta's Arsenal has probably been Liverpool's pressing and Arsenal's build-up. It hasn't been as good as it usually is for Arsenal, other than the goal, really. We saw then Rob Holding, I think more than anything, he saw Wijnaldum doing that usual blindside press that he does on opposition central midfielders, and he's almost kind of panicked and thought, I can't play it to him because he's obviously got that pressure coming, and that's obviously affected Arsenal's build-up play. So yeah, at the moment it's going exactly as Liverpool want. They've just got to obviously keep playing as they are doing and just keep that rest defense, we call it. So the shape that they've got in possession has to be, I don't want to use the word perfect, but it has to be, what's the word I'm looking for? It has to be compact enough when they've got the ball so that if they do lose it, they can then retrieve it straight away and there's no gaps for Arsenal to play through straight away.
Firmino helps this on inside. Sorry to cut you there, Cam. Go ahead, mate. Finish off. Sorry. Liverpool looked as though they were going to add a third.
Yes, they've just got to, as Lee said before, they've got to find that perfect balance of attacking and defending to keep trying to create chances. But obviously, as they're now leading, they don't need to commit as many plays forward, or they don't have to try as many offensive actions as they maybe would if they were drawing.
Around about 4 minutes plus stoppage time remaining of this first half is Liverpool 2, Arsenal 1.
See, Leeds against Man City is being advertised at the moment. Are we doing that game, Harry?
I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to double check on that one. It's a very attractive game, though, isn't it?
I think it could well be special given the way the two teams are playing at the moment.
That takes place, of course, next Saturday, 5:30. Stay tuned to our social media feed. We'll be letting you guys know tomorrow which games we'll be picking up. Here's Maitland-Niles Oh, he was in behind there. Was the flag up? Not sure if it was, but that was a massive opportunity for Arsenal. Cut the Liverpool defence open. I know the flag normally stays down now until the very, very last minute, but Ainsley Maitland-Niles, if he was onside, has just spurned a golden opportunity for Arsenal. Here's Tierney coming forward for the first time. Forced to retreat though, plays it infield to Xhaka. Arsenal just moving the ball a little bit quicker now. El Neni, lovely ball over the top to Willian. Lovely touch, low across the goal. Hooked away by Gomez. Really good defending from Gomez. The flag went up against Willian. Curious to see whether those two calls were correct. This first one, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, David Luiz with a long ball over the top. He looked just off to me, Ainsley Maitland-Niles.
Sadio Mane might be playing him on this near side, so I'm not entirely sure. But either way, you expect a player in that situation to have the surety of touch to be able to take that ball down. Maitland-Niles just lets the ball bounce off his shin and harmlessly away. I think that even if you are offside, you have to make sure that you're controlling that and finishing it.
I think it was not last season, the season before, that Ainsley Maitland-Niles scored at Anfield in the Premier League game. Arsenal got absolutely thumped afterwards, but they opened the scoring through Maitland-Niles, who was playing on the right that day, I think. Cam will probably remember. Holding. Here's El Neni. Maitland-Niles will bring this forward. Blocked by Naby Keita. Just seems to be everywhere at the moment.
He does. This is one of his better performances that I've seen from Liverpool so far. He gives you so much. He gives you that ability on the ball, but off the ball as well. His pressing, his positioning is always excellent. He's the kind of player who can unlock a defence and help you hold on to a lead at the same time. Almost the perfect modern midfielder. I think with a more of a consistent run of games, we might see him eventually become the player that Liverpool hoped they were signing.
Free kick to Arsenal. Granit Xhaka went down under the challenge of Naby Keita there. Here's Rob Holding in possession. Plays it long towards Alex Lacazette. El Neni will pick this up in the midfield. Finds Tierney on the left. Maitland-Niles immediately gets on his bike to make the overlapping run. Tierney plays it back to David Luiz. Arsenal looking a bit more ambitious in this last few minutes. That ball was just overhit for Willian. He's never going to keep that in.
That ball's difficult. That's what Arsenal looked for now 3 times. It was the pass to Maitland-Niles, the next pass out to Willian, and then that one to Willian as well. That they're looking for that ball to catch the Liverpool defensive line high. But it has to be executed perfectly. And it has to be weighted perfectly.
We're into stoppage time. 2 minutes added on. Just having a look at some of you guys' comments. Lenny says, Martinez with another clean sheet. We sold the wrong keeper. Every time they cross the ball, I get nervous. Need a commanding figure. Whoops, we just sold one. Going to be another long season. I don't know if you guys saw the game previous, the Fulham Villa one, but Martinez made a horrible mistake and got away with it based on the VAR, picking up a foul by Mitrovic in the build-up. Hasn't made too many, to be fair to him, in recent times, Emi Martinez, but certainly made one today. Van Dijk with a long searching ball towards Mo Salah. Loose ball from Trent Alexander-Arnold. Willian under pressure from Mane. Willian does really well there. Here's Bellerin. Lovely bit of skill. He's back with David Luiz now. About 30 seconds by my calculations remaining in this first half. David Luiz looking for Aubameyang. Alexander-Arnold does really well to first win the header and then get on the end of his own header. Liverpool have a throw in on that far side, and there'll be no rush to take this with the half-time whistle fast approaching. Referee just checks his watch. Blows for half-time at Anfield. It's Liverpool 2, Arsenal 1. Alexander Lacazette gave the Gunners the lead, but it didn't last very long before Sadio Mane popped up to put the Reds on level terms. And then it was Andy Robertson making a run forward who added Liverpool's second after making a mistake for the opener. It's Liverpool 2, Arsenal 1, and it's half-time at Anfield. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Your numbers make amazing happen.
Hello and welcome back to Total Football Analysis's live watch-along of Liverpool versus Arsenal. It's Liverpool 2, Arsenal 1 at the moment. Big hello to everybody joining us via the various platforms. Get your questions, get your comments, get your thoughts in the live chat. We'll pick up some of those during this halftime break. I'm delighted to be joined by Lee Scott and Cam Megan. Cam, what have you made of this first half overall? You must be delighted to see your side come from behind and start to take real control of this game.
Yeah, pretty much in control for the whole game, other than that minor error to concede the goal. I think the pressing's been excellent, and Arsenal so far haven't found an answer to it. We sort of tried to drop into a double pivot like they have done in most games this season, but Liverpool have responded to it quite well. I think as well, Liverpool's build-up's been pretty decent. I think Naby Keita has been the real difference maker, and Arsenal's decision to go for a 3-4-3 with those two midfielders hasn't really paid off so far. I think Liverpool are taking advantage of that a little bit, and I think Lacazette in particular isn't doing too great a job, and I'm sure I'll go into more detail later on about that.
Why is that? Why do you think he's not done a great job?
Yeah, so you saw we've seen Naby Keita get free a few times, haven't we? So we've seen Fabinho is. We'll look at the graphic here. It's obviously 3-4-3 for Arsenal. So Granit Xhaka is usually matched up against Fabinho. Mohamed El Neni is usually up against Jorginho Wijnaldum. And Naby Keita is kind of just getting free in that role. Usually, what I'd like to see, and what Arsenal have done sometimes, but they haven't done very often, is Alexandre Lacazette would usually drop a little bit deeper and cover Fabinho when Liverpool have got possession of the ball. And a few times Liverpool have been circulating the ball, switching it from side to side, and Lacazette hasn't been able to get close to Fabinho. And as a result, you've had Granit Xhaka then going on to Fabinho. And then obviously that means Xhaka can't cover Naby Keita, and Naby Keita therefore gets free. So for me, I'd like to see, well, certainly at the start of the game, I'd like to see more of probably a 3-4-1-2. So Lacazette is more of almost an attacking midfielder out of possession, and he's pretty much tasked with keeping tabs on Fabinho and not allowing Liverpool that midfield overload, because we've seen pretty much all of Liverpool's chances, it's been that overload that's allowed them to progress the ball.
It's a great point, and it is something that we have seen Lacazette do at times, but you're right in saying that it's not been often enough. And certainly in a game like this, it is something that is needed, isn't it, Lee?
Yeah, I think so. I think they have to do something now. I think that Cam's absolutely right that the sensible thing is to drop Lacazette back out of possession to disrupt that Liverpool midfield a little bit. I think that it's important that you don't play with the pressing and positioning of the two wide attackers from Arsenal, because their role at the moment is to press from outside to in on the central defenders, just to try to negate that threat of a quick ball out to the full-backs for Liverpool, who we know are so important. I think that, touching on the game as a whole so far, it's been really interesting that Liverpool have been so dynamic in the way they've built up from the back. We talked briefly about the fact that both Wijnaldum and Keita were taking turns almost, or sometimes at the same time. They were dropping back towards the defensive line just to offer Liverpool options to play through the Arsenal press for what it was. But we've also seen Fabinho drop down and split the central defenders, and all these different options and different mechanisms that Liverpool seem to have within this team to find ways to outplay pressure. It's something that's really important. I think what we're seeing at the moment is an Arsenal side who are almost playing in the same way that Liverpool did when Jurgen Klopp first came to Liverpool. They're looking to live in the transition. They're looking to live in the chaos, and there's not a lot of control from the Arsenal side at the moment, whereas Liverpool now have kind of evolved into a side that controls the play far better than they used to. Certainly last season, the control was one of the most important elements for me from their tactical structure, and we're really seeing Liverpool being able to control the ball far better, and it's really showing on the pitch.
I mean, from my perspective, from an Arsenal sort of viewpoint, I think what's been the concern this evening is that, we knew that Liverpool were going to have the majority of the ball. We knew that Liverpool were going to essentially dictate the pace of the game, being the home side and being as superior as they are to Arsenal. But the problem I feel has been for Arsenal, the build-up there's a very clear vision of what the build-up is supposed to be, and there's no sort of going away from that at the moment. It feels like you can see what they're trying to do, and it's becoming a little bit predictable, a little bit obvious, and they're always looking for that move that essentially led to the goal. But that's only going to happen a certain amount of times if your opponent has cottoned onto it. Am I just being a little bit too simplistic in my review? But it feels like Arsenal are fearful of trying something different at the moment.
I think you're right, but this plays into exactly what I was just talking about. That used to be the same thing that was levelled at Liverpool or Jurgen Klopp, that they were predictable with the way they looked to attack, and if you could negate that, then you could negate them. What Liverpool have now added is much more flexibility, and I think that's the point that Arteta will eventually get to with Arsenal. He'll find a way to add that added flexibility, that wrinkle where a player will move into a different positional slot depending on what the opposition are looking to do. And that's when you start to really find ways to build up against multiple different teams that play different ways. Not a lot of teams are as effective pressing the ball as Liverpool, so the Arsenal build-up isn't going to be under this pressure every week. It's just the way that Liverpool exists, the way that Liverpool are taught to do this, that they're taught to cut off angles, but to do so aggressively. Their counter pressed at times in that first half has been phenomenal. It's been at levels that we didn't see a lot last season, even. So at the moment, Arsenal are struggling to play out, and it is looking one-dimensional. But I wouldn't be too worried about it from an Arsenal point of view going forward across the rest of the season.
Fair enough. It is something maybe we're going a little bit OTT on, a little bit panicky, but we have to remember that we are playing the Premier League champions away from home, and this was never, ever going to be an easy fixture. We've got a few questions in the live chat, which I'm going to just pick up now. They're mostly Arsenal related. Let's have a quick look. Just going to pick a couple at random. Let's have a look. Carlo asks, and I'll put this one to Cam, because Cam, you're a Liverpool man. You won't have any sort of preconceptions about the guy, because there are a lot of Arsenal fans that are very anti-Granit Xhaka, and whatever you ask them about him, they will put him down. So I'm going to put this one to you, so you can't be accused of any bias. Is there space for Xhaka if we get our main two targets? And that, of course, would be Houssem Aouar and Thomas Partey. Personally, I'd be surprised if we got both. I think it's one or the other. But if one of those players was to come in, is Granit Xhaka the first one you'd look to move out of the starting 11?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I've known the player for quite a while. Actually, I watched him. I'm also a Mönchengladbach fan as well, so I watched him there, and obviously he was excellent then. That's what earned him the move to Arsenal. But since coming to the Premier League, I think he has his games, and he's tidy enough on the ball, but I don't think he's that kind of dynamic Arsenal midfielder that they're after. And certainly those two targets, I think, would definitely be an upgrade on Xhaka. Possibly in some games where they want a bit more kind of steel in midfield. So obviously Houssem Aouar isn't that type of player, so Xhaka will obviously still get his games. But I do think Xhaka would be the player to drop out.
Lee, your take on that is Xhaka underrated by the Arsenal fans, in your opinion?
I think so. I think that I completely understand where Cam's coming from. I think from a qualitative point of view, I think that if you were offered the likes of Houssem Aouar, you would take that over a Granit Xhaka. What Granit Xhaka gives you, however, is that ability and that understanding of when to alter the shape of the attack, if you like. We saw it, we touched upon it in the first half, when Xhaka will look to drop into that left-sided centre half position, and that will allow Kieran Tierney to go outside and push Ainsley Maitland-Niles inside, and it just gives you a different look in terms of your opposition's defensive structure and marking. For what it's worth, I'm a huge fan of Houssem Aouar, but I see him more as an 8 who can affect the game going forward rather than somebody who's going to be extremely effective in the defensive phase. So I think that Arsenal have to be very wary about making sure they retain that balance in the midfield. Like you, I don't think that they have the financial means to go out and get Aouar and Partey. And if I was being given the opportunity to sign one or the other, it would be Aouar for me.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are in agreement that Aouar is probably the better player. He's younger, someone with a higher ceiling. But of course, it is that worry about that lack of steel in the middle of the park that I guess drives people towards sort of siding with Thomas Partey on this one. Just conscious that we've been speaking a lot about Arsenal. Liverpool, they've been, I'm not going to say at their brilliant best this evening, Cam, but we're starting to see, after a dodgy opening to the season, the game against Leeds, where, going forward, they were brilliant, but from a defensive standpoint, there were problems, there were issues, but we're starting to see Liverpool get back into gear now, aren't we?
Yeah, I think that first game against Leeds was a pretty odd one, really. I mean, I remember watching it and thinking, hang on, this is a game where we've actually got there's 3 points that we actually need here, because obviously since about March or April, we'd wrapped up the league and we didn't really have a game that was must win. So that mentality shift was probably something that might have affected Liverpool a little bit. Obviously, they're up against Leeds, who are an excellent opposition and did cause them problems. But I think we've seen already in the season, Liverpool have been a little bit sloppy or complacent at times. As for today, we saw a little bit of complacency again. But overall, it's been a good performance from Liverpool. The pressing's been excellent. They've built up and created chances against a deep or mid block, which is something in the past they have struggled to do. Certainly, it's good to see that without Thiago, they've still managed to create those chances. And Naby Keita, I think, has been the standout for me so far. Out of possession and in possession, he's performed that role really well, which we talked about before the game started. And he'll make a case to be in the starting lineup most weeks now, I think.
What are your thoughts on the Mane incident, guys? Because I'm sort of scrolling through social media as we're doing this, and lots of Arsenal fans are very unhappy that Sadio Mane was only shown a yellow card for that incident. The more I see it, the more I feel like it is reckless from Mane, and maybe there's a case. Liam, I just sort of got my Arsenal hat on here. Is there a case that maybe there should have been further action?
I think that you may be reaching a little bit. I think that Cam was completely right when he talked about in the first half that Man has reached out to try to make contact and try to just push off of Tierney as he's gone to receive the ball, and it just so happens that his hands moved a little bit higher than it should have. I think that the fact that Tierney didn't make a big deal about it when he went down tells you everything, that these are the things that can happen in football. Sometimes it wasn't malicious, it wasn't even an attacker trying to gain an unfair advantage. It was just something we see every day. It just so happens that his hand was raised slightly. I wouldn't buy too much into it.
Cool. I'll leave that one there then. We're back underway in the second half. Liverpool 2, Arsenal 1. No changes from either boss. Arsenal in possession at the moment. Don't forget, if you're watching us via the Hot Mic app, you can synchronize our broadcast with your television pictures. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the little clock behind me to help you line up the time. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channels if you are new. Here's Tierney for Arsenal. Aubameyang underneath it. Alexander-Arnold just plays it back to Alisson. Lacazette put him under some pressure. Aubameyang going to press Virgil van Dijk. Apologies. Here's Hector Bellerin to Willian on this right-hand side for Arsenal. He's not been in the game as much as Arsenal would have liked, Willian. Neither has Aubameyang. Been starved of service, the two Arsenal wide men. Here is Willian now, one-on-one with Robertson. Plays it just infield to Bellerin, who's joined him, into El Neni. Does well to keep the attack alive there, El Neni, because it wasn't the greatest pass to him. Here's Tierney driving inside, then looks to play the pass outfield, or outside, I should say, to Maitland-Niles, but he couldn't quite find his man. Here's Sadio Mane now running at the Arsenal defence. Mane left-footed. It's over the bar from just outside of the penalty area. Sadio Mane gets you off your seat, doesn't he, when he picks the ball up in those kind of areas. You never know what he's going to pull out the bag. Such a capable player.
Typically, you would see him drive on the penalty area in that circumstance. It's just that I think the defence was catching up with him a little bit, and he snatched at the shot slightly with his left foot. I think that maybe another 10 minutes in the second half, when the legs have got going a bit, you would have seen him look to drive further forward with the ball. But again, here, Arsenal are trying to build out, and the Liverpool press is suffocating. Liverpool are finding it so easy to disrupt that passing, that progression of the ball from Arsenal.
Here is Mane. Robertson to Virgil van Dijk. Here's Alexander-Arnold. Salah looks to help it on. Xhaka picks it up instead. Bit fortunate there, Xhaka, to get it back. Tierney plays it forward into the channel where he'd hope Aubameyang would be, but Aubameyang had dropped that little bit deeper.
I think that's lucky. That's only a yellow card for Alexander-Arnold. That looked quite nasty on Tierney.
Certainly had his foot raised there, Alexander-Arnold. He does bring it down in the end, but he steps on Tierney's foot, doesn't he?
He definitely does. There was definite contact. Always difficult for referees when a player goes with studs like that. I don't think the intent was there to injure, but sometimes it can happen that way.
Here's Aubameyang now. Ball across to Lacazette. Lays it off to Maitland-Niles. Not sure if that was supposed to be a shot from Maitland-Niles, but the attack's still alive. Looked like it was going well wide if it was. Here's Willian. Delivers into the box. Van Dijk heads it up into the air at the near post. Fabinho then helps it on. Xhaka takes it down now for Arsenal. Here's at Tierney now. Arsenal taking a lot more of a gamble at the moment, but will it bite them in the arse? That's the problem. Gomez's clearance blocked by Maitland-Niles. He's won his team a goal kick. Cam, you must be feeling confident that given the risks Arsenal appear to be taking, that you can catch them out on the break.
Yeah, it's that same balancing that I talked about with Liverpool. So obviously Arsenal do need to take more of those risks, but do they need to take them right away in the 49th minute? Would probably be the question. But as long as they stay in that kind of shape, I know Liverpool, they like to always have two players immediately behind the ball in a central area. So be that the fullback maybe, or usually those two central midfielders. So I think Arsenal will probably follow that same kind of scheme in a 3-4-3. So they're just going to be careful.
Here's Sadio Mane doing really, really well. Finds Firmino. Low ball across the penalty area. Tierney deals with it. It's gone out for a Liverpool throw-in. So difficult to dispossess Sadio Mane once he picks up the ball and starts running at people. Here is Wijnaldum. Robertson plays it infield to Van Dijk. Looks for Alexander-Arnold on the right-hand side. He puts a cross in first time. Dealt with by Lewis and then hooked clear by Kieran Tierney.
The technique on that cross from Alexander-Arnold was just ridiculous. To hit a cross first time when the ball's travelled that distance from Van Dijk, and it was a great cross if it wasn't cut out as well. That was fantastic.
Brilliant technique from the England fullback. I don't think there's ever been any questions about Trent Alexander-Arnold's ability sort of in the attacking third, in his technique, Cam, but defensively, is he a little bit suspect?
I don't think suspect. I think obviously his offensive ability is far greater than his defensive ability. But he has had some really good games for Liverpool defensively. I think in particular in his early career at Liverpool, Liverpool played Manchester City, and I think it was in the Champions League. And he had probably about 10 or 15 1v1s with Leroy Sané, and he won most of them. But I think for Liverpool, I don't think it helps sometimes having both Joe Gomez and Trent Alexander-Arnold on the same side, as opposed to Robbo and Van Dijk on the other side. Obviously, that right side is something that gets targeted a little bit for Liverpool, so it may well be a case of him just probably having more to do defensively. But I think as a fullback, I don't think he's poor defensively by any means.
Rob Holding just lost the ball in a really, really dangerous area for Arsenal. Fortunately, they were able to avert the danger, but Liverpool have a throw-in now. You can see Arsenal are determined to play out from the back, but when the options are not presenting themselves for the next pass, sometimes you've just got to use your own common sense and get rid of it, don't you think, Lee?
You do, but the danger is that that's what exactly Liverpool want. We're seeing a team in Liverpool who are pressing so well. They're disrupting that build-up from Arsenal so well, better than anybody else that we'll see probably in the near future playing against this Arsenal side, that even if the options aren't there, it can sometimes become just as dangerous just to launch the ball up because you're just turning the ball back to them. I think that Arsenal need to find a way to create more overload centrally to find that clear progression of the ball, but at the moment they're struggling a little bit to get it moving.
Here's Maitland-Niles for Arsenal.
Yeah, just for me on the Arsenal build, I think obviously it is difficult to create those midfield overloads against Liverpool because they do have that midfield three. But I think the key thing is you see Arsenal, they do drop that double pivot, but you've got to drop it around Roberto Firmino. And then that allows an Arsenal player to usually get free because obviously Firmino can't keep two players in his cover shadow. So then once they do that, you do then draw one of those Liverpool midfielders just a little bit higher. And Liverpool sometimes don't want to go that high. So you've just got to test that depth really, because eventually if you go so deep, Liverpool won't follow you and you can just kind of relax that pressure a little bit.
Fantastic point. So Lewis plays this forward. towards Aubameyang, who's been really, really starved of service this evening. That's a rare loose pass from Trent Alexander-Arnold. Here's at Willian now for Arsenal. Bellerin making the overlapping run. Here's the Spaniard now in possession. Puts it into the penalty area. Alexander-Arnold headed it clear. It's as far as Xhaka stabs it back in towards the Liverpool goal, but it's hooked away. Chance maybe for Liverpool to build a counter-attack here. I think the opportunity's probably passed them by here. They're still coming forward though. Here's Firmino. Mane picks up the loose ball. Drives towards the Arsenal penalty area. David Luiz on hand to clear it. But it'll come straight back by the looks of things. Wijnaldum just helps this on to Robertson. Just talking about Liverpool's midfield, they're very much geared to allow Robertson and Alexander-Arnold to make those runs forward, don't they? You see Wijnaldum often drop into that slightly left position to create the sort of opportunity for Robertson to get forward, and we see the same on the right-hand side. Maybe that's not done as well on the right-hand side, and maybe that's why it's targeted, Cam.
Yeah, I think so. I think mostly it's so for in possession, for example, you do see Wijnaldum is also often dropping onto that left side. You mentioned that right side. It probably isn't used that often, but it is difficult sometimes because you see usually teams who do this and drop into a back three, you'll see that central midfielder. So Fabinho would usually drop into a back three, but Liverpool don't do that often. And obviously we've got Naby Keita on the other side, and if you want him to occupy that half space higher up, you don't want him dropping back into that area. So you do see Liverpool go quite left orientated most of the time. I remember Spurs last season, that happened a lot. But I'm not sure whether or not it has an impact defensively.
Here come Liverpool again. Firmino, now Salah. Chips one in towards Mane, met by the head of Holding, then cleared by David Luiz. Lacazette working back. Tierney gets his foot underneath it, but Arsenal just can't make the ball stick up front. Feels like aimless clearances into the directions of Willian, Lacazette and Aubameyang, but nothing accurate, nothing from which they can build upon.
I think we're probably approaching a time now where Arteta's going to have to make a change from a tactical point of view and a personnel point of view. Arsenal just look unable to prevent Liverpool from progressing the ball. That you could see there was no pressure on the ball at all there when it was with the Liverpool back line. I think they need to make a change quickly just to stem the tide a little bit.
Perhaps Eddie Nketiah up top might give them a little bit more energy than Lacazette. He's looked a bit, I don't want to say, I don't think lazy is the right term, but he hasn't looked as busy, Alexander Lacazette, as he normally does when he plays in that position.
No, the last couple of times I've seen him play properly for Arsenal, watching a full game, I've been very impressed. His build-up play, his link play has been excellent, his pressing has been excellent, but tonight he's just looked to be a little bit off the pace. He certainly isn't being as aggressive as he normally is in trying to prevent passing angles and block passing lanes. Nketiah offers, of course, a different profile. He's not a player who's going to build up the play, but he will threaten it in behind the Liverpool defensive line. That will give Arsenal a slightly different option.
Nicolas Pepe is also an option. He's on the substitutes bench this evening. Mikel Arteta's been talking him up this week, talking about the fact that he believes he will become a very key player for Arsenal in the years to come.
I would say that as well if I spent 80 million on him.
That often gets spoken about, understandably so, as Lacazette, just as I said, he hasn't worked hard enough tonight. He works it all the way back and makes a crucial interception. Willian plays a lovely ball in behind for Lacazette. The flag stayed down. Lacazette's through on goal for Arsenal. Goes to chip it over Alisson. Lacazette, what are you doing? What is he doing? The flag went up in the end, though, I think. I think he kept it down as they're directed to, but I just saw the linesman raise his flag out of the corner of my eye there. I hope for Lacazette's sake that was offside.
Certainly hope so. That was a product of the delayed run that Lacazette made. You're right, he'd worked right the way back and won the ball back, and then because his run was coming from so deep, he was able to stay online as the ball onside as the ball was played through. But for a striker to be in that position, whether the flag goes up or not, you have to be putting the ball past the goalkeeper. He just looked hesitant. He looked like he didn't know what he wanted to do with the ball, and Alisson psyched him out by staying big and staying on his feet as he came out there.
Arsenal are going to make their first change of the game. Surprisingly, it's Granit Xhaka who's going to make way. Dani Ceballos will be replacing him. Clearly looking for a bit more ball progression. Is Mikel Arteta. Surprised to see Xhaka come off. It's very rare that you've seen any Arsenal manager actually take Granit Xhaka off, apart from Unai Emery. That day he was booed off the pitch at the Emirates Stadium. Sure, every Arsenal fan out there will remember that incident. Cam, were you concerned by the way Arsenal seemed to cut through that Liverpool defence there? I know it probably was slightly offside, but it's got to be a concern, hasn't it? Didn't pick up the late run.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, in most games, teams do get through on goal in that fashion. Liverpool really do take those risks with that high line. It's something that Klopp's clearly coached a hell of a lot, really. The body positioning, the way, kind of the technical detail that goes into performing that kind of offside trap. Liverpool seem to be spot on with it most of the time. You see it a lot from set pieces too. So it's something Liverpool have practiced, but you've got to try and stop that midfield progression to begin with.
Here are Liverpool on the attack themselves. David Luiz doing well on the edge of the box. It's fallen to Keita, to Mane. Keita continued his run. Mane played him in. Holding was equal to it. Lots of people in the live chat asking for us to show them the game. We'd love to, but we don't have the rights, unfortunately. In case you didn't know, Premier League rights cost hundreds of millions of pounds. Here's at Fabinho. Now Robertson to Virgil van Dijk. Thinks about the shot. Takes a shot. It's a good save from Leno. It had to be. I think that took him a little bit by surprise. It's not often you see the Dutchman let fly from that sort of distance. The ball just bounced awkwardly in front of Bernd Leno. It's a good stop in the end. Here is Van Dijk again for Liverpool. Long diagonal ball towards Trent Alexander-Arnold, but it's picked up by Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Now it's Mohamed El-Neni for Arsenal. Does really well to skip past Firmino there. Lays it off to Dani Ceballos, to Bellerin. Willian's making the run wide. Bellerin plays it back infield to the Spaniard instead. That's a lovely ball in for Alexander Lacazette, and he spurned another golden opportunity, Lacazette. It looked as though he was going to go around Alisson, and then he completely changed his mind. Huge chance for Arsenal. That certainly looked onside.
He was definitely onside. It was poor again from Lacazette with his finish, but well worked by Arsenal this time. They moved the ball well. They found a weak point in the Liverpool defence and a great reverse pass found Lacazette in space, but the finish was off again.
Aubameyang puts this one into the penalty area. It's a poor delivery from the Arsenal captain, but just going back to that chance, it's a golden opportunity spurned by Alexander Lacazette. It's a wonderful ball from Ceballos. Lacazette certainly onside. Alexander-Arnold's playing him on. He looked as though he may just look to go to the right of Alisson there with his first touch, and he kind of hesitated, didn't he? Looked to go back across him.
It was a technique. He looked to shift the ball to the right. When strikers do that, they tend to go to that side. So he tried to be clever to make Alisson think he was shifting to the right to go to that side and reverse it across his body. But again, just poor technique, poor execution.
Just as I mentioned, Liverpool usually having those good technique on the offside trap. It's really, really poor by Trent Alexander-Arnold. And you saw straight away as soon as Alisson made that save, Van Dijk screamed at him. He stood side on there, which only increases basically the surface area he takes up in that offside line. And that helps Lacazette to stay on side. So it's poor from Liverpool's point of view again. And they need to get control of the game a bit more.
Firmino. Mane on the turn. Just wide from Sadio Mane. Liverpool go close to extending their lead just moments after Alexander Lacazette missed a glorious opportunity at the other end for the Gunners. From an Arsenal fan's perspective, it just feels like I wish it was Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on the end of those chances rather than Alexander Lacazette.
Or Ian Wright.
Or Ian Wright. Or Thierry Henry. Or Dennis Bergkamp. Or Davor Suker. The list goes on. Here is Fabinho. It's a criticism that's been thrown at Alexander Lacazette often, actually, that he does miss chances. He doesn't score enough goals for someone who plays in a team of this quality.
It's consistency more than anything else. From a finishing point of view, from a technical point of view, he's a fantastic finisher. But sometimes with these strikers, if you give them too much time, then they can struggle to execute properly. He almost overthought it. He tried to win the mind games with Alisson both times, and both times Alisson came out and got the better of him. So sometimes I think that Lacazette's a better instinctive finisher than he is a finisher who's going to run in a goal and beat the goalkeeper.
Completely agree with that. Whereas Aubameyang is the opposite. You wouldn't mind Aubameyang running through on goal with the time. He still keeps his composure. But Lacazette, usually a really dangerous finisher on the turn, in sort of when he has got very limited time and space. Those instinctive finishes, like you said, Lee. But if Arsenal do go on to lose this game, they'll be kicking themselves. Because although they haven't been very good tonight, the opportunity was there to draw themselves level. You won't get many chances than that. Many better chances than that, I should say, at a place like Anfield. Cam, would you make any tactical changes from a Liverpool point of view, given what we've seen in the last 15 minutes or so?
Probably not in terms of tactics. Liverpool aren't really a team who adjust the game plan, really. They do more or less play the same all the time. Personnel-wise, I mean, at this point in the game, I think Naby Keita's influence has worn off a little bit. I'm not sure we've got on the bench as midfield options, but maybe just a player who probably plays it a little bit more safer and isn't going to roam into that half space as much. Because obviously now you do need to try and stop those counter-attacks and just keep it a little bit more compact.
Liverpool with a free kick, ball put into the box, met by the head of Lacazette, falls to Keita. It's back with Robertson. He'll get another chance to put the ball into the penalty area. This time Bellerin's there. Dani Ceballos will help this on to Aubameyang. Got plenty of space in front of him. He knocks it past Fabinho. Looks to beat him. The referee's not interested. Aubameyang wanted a free kick there. Mane just turns into Bellerin, wins his team a free kick. I'm not sure really what the difference was between what Fabinho just did and what Bellerin just did, but Bellerin's going to get a yellow card.
I think Fabinho had control of the situation. He was well ahead of the ball. Aubameyang overhit it, and Fabinho was the favourite to win the ball. I think that Aubameyang went to ground a little bit too early. With the second situation, Mane had already turned Bellerin when the contact was made. Mane would have got onto that ball, and Bellerin just had enough contact to take him down.
Just seeing that Aubameyang incident again. But you'd fancy Aubameyang over over a fair distance to get ahead.
No, I get Fabinho is one of the few midfielders in the Premier League who you probably think could keep up with Aubameyang or at least cut him close. He's very quick. It's deceptively quick.
Arsenal have made a substitution. Willian has made way for Nicolas Pepe. Spoke about Mikel Arteta talking him up in the week, speaking about his importance and that he's been delighted with his progress. Now's his time to show it. Here's Ceballos into Pepe. First touch of the game goes past Sadio Mane, but the referee's pulled it back. I think it's for an Arsenal free kick. Foul on Dani Ceballos. Just picks himself up off the ground.
Surely the last change has to be Nketiah for Lacazette, given the two chances Lacazette's missed and the fact he's such a consistency striker and somebody who needs confidence to finish. You would be getting Nketiah on sooner rather than later.
Agreed. Elneny just finding David Luiz. Arsenal again putting themselves under pressure at the back. We understand the purpose of it. We understand what the end goal is, but it just feels a little bit frustrating at times when you see Arsenal put themselves in this kind of situation. Mane's done really, really well. Mane from the angle. Comfortable save for Leno in the end. Ceballos just taken out there by Naby Keita. Ceballos isn't happy with the challenge. It feels like Liverpool play in bursts, Cam. You know, you see them 1 minute pressing really aggressively, and then the next minute they just drop off a bit like they have now. Is that a common feature of Liverpool's game?
I wouldn't say so, really. I think against most teams we are pretty much always pressing high. There are obviously odd occasions because you can't press for 90 minutes constantly. But I think for most of this game as well, it's just been pressing high against Arsenal, and Arsenal really don't think the build-up structures just haven't been particularly great tonight. I think every time it's been that double pivot, and Liverpool were quite happy to just drop Gini Wijnaldum onto Mohamed Elneny from pretty much every goal kick. And then Firmino's marking, it was Xhaka, now Ceballos. So Liverpool have just dealt with it really well, and I wouldn't say they've played in bursts that much. Obviously, I think the quality at the moment has been in bursts. Arsenal keep taking control of the game a little too much for my liking at the moment. So I think Liverpool, using that pressing now, have to gain a bit more control, or as much as they can.
20 minutes remaining at Anfield. Don't forget, guys, if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, whether you're watching us on Total Football Analysis, on the Chronicles of a Gooner, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Hot Mic. Keep an eye on the social media channels for the games that we'll be bringing you from next weekend. Here's Fabinho. I know one of them, Lee, is Juventus Napoli.
I thought you were going to say it was an Aberdeen game, but okay.
We're not quite ready to venture into the Scottish Premiership just yet. I wouldn't know the players, Lee.
It's okay. They wouldn't have the ball for long enough for you have to say their name in the Scottish Premier League.
Up and under, eh? Here is Mane, goes down under the challenge of Ceballos. He's got his team a free kick just slightly to the left of Arsenal's penalty area. Ceballos is not very happy with that decision. He's going to talk himself into a yellow card as well if he wasn't going to get one anyway.
Ceballos is rightly saying that that's the same kind of challenge that he got from Naby Keita 5 minutes ago. Keita came in and clattered him in much the same way. Yes, the position of the pitch is different, but the challenge is pretty much identical. And Ceballos ends up getting a yellow card. The good thing is we haven't seen a penalty for handball yet, so we're doing quite well tonight.
Still 18 minutes to go, Lee. We'll talk about that briefly in a second. Let's just see this free kick and how this plays out. Always difficult from this kind of position because it's almost too close to the penalty area. Not ideal for the taker. Difficult to defend as well. Not much reaction time as the ball comes across. Robertson towards the far post. Van Dijk was there, but Tierney did really, really well to get ahead on it. Free kick goes Arsenal's way. Cam, myself and Lee spoke about it during halftime of last night's game. Your take on this new handball thing, I'm going to call it, because it's been a real bloody mess, hasn't it, over the last few days?
Yeah, it's been a weird one. I remember a few years ago, we had some problems with handball, and there was a few times where you thought, I think a few people, I think I saw a tweet from Gary Lineker, that was from like 2016 or something, saying from now on, if it hits somebody's hand, it should automatically be handball. But I think it's always been a weird one because not many players intentionally handle the ball. So it's hard to determine what's deliberate and what isn't.
You can never really know somebody's intent, can you? Unless you get inside their head. That's the problem. And that's why they've tried to simplify it. But in doing that, they've caused an absolute mess because players are going to deliberately try to hit hands. We're going to see,
Mhm.
I mean, for example, the one in the Brighton game from Neil Maupay, for me, that's a penalty. But then you see the one that Eric Dyer was penalised for yesterday. And as much as I am not a fan of Spurs, you can't help but have some sympathy for that, because the guy's facing the other way. He's got his hands behind his back.
Yeah, it's usually that unnatural position that most people quote. And if you're jumping, going backwards, you don't jump with your arms by your side, do you? And you mentioned as well, if teams do look to try and kick the ball at people's hands and they are in an unnatural position, then where do you draw the line with that? So I think Liverpool last year in the Champions League final, Mane quite clearly looks at Sissoko, looks at where his hand is, and then kicks at his hand and gets a penalty. So it is a problem, and it does need fixed. But it's not the referee's fault, is it? It's the law.
Agreed. Arsenal just coming forward at the moment. Lacazette visibly disappointed with his contribution this evening. Just pictures of him there sitting on the substitutes bench with his shirt over his head. He knows that he missed a really, really good chance. Still don't know if the first one was even onside, but lovely ball played in behind for Eddie Nketiah to run onto, but Alisson was on his toes there, fortunately for Liverpool. Perhaps Liverpool can go down the other end now and add a third. Here's Mane. Finds Firmino inside the box. Firmino shot towards the far post, took a deflection off of Kieran Tierney, just drifted wide of Bern Leno's right-hand post. A few Arsenal fans in the live chat complaining about Arsenal's approach tonight, that it's been too defensive. When was the last time Arsenal were at Anfield in the Premier League on 75 minutes and was still in the game? That's what I would say to those.
I think it's worth pointing out as well how many teams come to Anfield or play Liverpool
Exactly.
and go at them, and they're successful with it. There's a reason teams sit back against us.
Bern Leno are judged to have been fouled there. I think that was a little bit soft, to be honest. He's not the most convincing goalkeeper in those situations, is he, Lee, Bern Leno?
No, he's not. And again, that's part of his profile. That's part of the problem. He is, as we said earlier on, a fantastic shot stopper in individual situations. But again, with his feet, he's suspect. Sometimes he's not great coming and claiming crosses. So you can understand why Arsenal fans wanted them to keep Emi Martinez. And certainly I believe that we'll see Arsenal go to the market for a goalkeeper at the end of this season.
Recently signed Alex Runarsson, of course, but I don't think anybody expects him to be the first team goalkeeper.
From what I've seen of him play previously, I wouldn't be overly excited if I was an Arsenal fan about that one. I think that he's backup material at best.
Yeah, it was just feels like it was Arsenal just plugging in a hole, having sold Martinez for financial reasons, as they've admitted. Bellerin trying to get in behind Robertson here. Robertson's conceded the corner, though. Aubameyang was lurking in the middle there. If only Bellerin could have found the cross. Arsenal with a chance to get the ball into the penalty area. David Luiz, Rob Holding making their way into the penalty area. Almost 78 minutes on the clock. Pepe's delivery is a strange one. A poor one, actually. Hooked away by Robertson at the near post. Must be so frustrating as a centre-back when you, at this stage in the game, make a run up the field to attack a corner, and that's the outcome. Bellerin again penalised for a foul throw for the second time in this game.
And there's no doubt whatsoever that was a foul throw. You've got to think about what you're doing at this level.
It's just schoolboy stuff, isn't it?
It is. It's an interesting moment now for Cam, seeing Diego Jota ready to come on for Liverpool.
Liverpool about to make a double substitution. Going to see Naby Keita, I think, come off for James Milner.
Yeah, that's our signature sub, that really. It's
apologies, it's Mane's making way. I think that must be for Jota then, no? Yeah, Keita
Yeah, you'd
and
think.
Mane.
Yeah, Milner usually comes on with about 20, 15 minutes to go. Usually it seems like he's told to calm us down and then straight away he'll hit somebody and get a yellow card.
James Milner drinks Ribena at parties, replaced by Diogo Jota. Signed from Wolverhampton Wanderers. Cam, what's your initial feeling on this one, Diogo Jota? I know he's not played for Liverpool yet, but obviously a big money signing. Was you surprised that Liverpool were in for him?
A little bit. I mean, I didn't expect us really to sign that cover. That's not to say that I didn't want us to sign a player like that. I mean, Liverpool's attacking options, if you look at them, I think we've maybe been a little bit lucky in the past regarding injuries. So touch wood, Mane, Salah and Firmino have all been pretty fit and healthy pretty much all the time for the last couple of seasons. And bringing on players like Divock Origi hasn't been successful. So off the bench last year, I don't think he scored a goal. He shows flashes of brilliance, but other than that, not really much. So we certainly needed the cover. And Jota is obviously Premier League quality and obviously played well in the Europa League last year as well for Wolves. So I think it's a decent signing, and the price tag I don't think in today's market is too bad.
Mm-hmm. He's looked lively since he's come on, Diogo Jota. Been involved in the play already as Bellerin takes his throw in. This time it was a legal throw in. Holding squares it to Leno. Oh my God. What a dangerous pass that was.
This is why I like watching Arsenal games with you, Harry.
I just can't help it. I apologise. Ceballos into Nicolas Pepe. I told Chris I shouldn't do Arsenal games, but there you go. Here is David Luiz.
That's why I told Chris that you should always do Arsenal games.
Here is Mohamed Salah.
Just on Diogo Jota, just for a second, I think it's really interesting that they chose to sign him. He's a player who's naturally predisposed to press. So in this Liverpool system, he's a player who already has that profile.
He's had his first shot at goal as well, Diogo Jota. Not troubling Bernd Leno, though. Eager to make an impression, hasn't he? Well, he has been since he's come on. He's been busy so far.
Yeah. I think that Liverpool needed to freshen up a little bit. I think Cameron touched upon the fact that Keita's effectiveness had worn off a little bit. He'd done his job really in the first half and the start of the second half. So no surprise to see him make way. And it made sense just to bring on those fresh legs in the attacking phase as well.
It's a tired pass from Ainsley Maitland-Niles there to that far side. It's gone out for a Liverpool throw in. It's just... Milner's going to take the throw in. No, he's not. He's going to leave it for Robertson. Here is Van Dijk into Gomez. Salah takes this down. Aubameyang having to work back. Always carries a goal threat, Aubameyang, but Arsenal really haven't utilised him at all this evening.
No, I'd be really interested to see his shot, his touch map after the game, just to see exactly where he has been able to get the ball, because it feels like we've hardly seen him in possession.
Here is Diogo Jota, side netting. The fake crowd sounds were in a full order for the goal there by the producer at Sky. But it was the side netting from Jota. Wonderful ball from Salah, having drifted across the penalty area. He picked out Jota at the far post. He took a touch, but the angle was always closing. Leno did well to be fair, to close the angle completely.
I think that pass from Salah takes out about 5 Arsenal players in one go, which is fantastic. You don't always see Salah willing to release the ball that early, so obviously he's keen to see the new player make an impact too.
Here is Leno, now holding Ceballos. Brings the ball out brilliantly to Bellerin. Plays it forward to Nicolas Pepe. One-on-one with Virgil van Dijk. Nobody normally gets past Van Dijk. Pepe forced to check back. Here's Bellerin now. Into Nketiah. Has he won his team a corner here? The linesman thinks so. Arsenal with another chance to threaten Alisson's goal. Don't think they'll get a better one. Well, I'd be surprised if they got a better one than the one that fell to Alexander Lacazette earlier on. Just their second corner of the night. Pepe, that same delivery again. Why has he been allowed to take the corner again?
He's an excellent set piece taker normally, but the trajectory in those two corners have been too low, too close to front post. They haven't even made it to the front post. That's poor.
It's a curse, Lee. When you join Arsenal, you lose the ability to beat the first man from a corner. It's been happening for years.
I think you find that fans in most clubs say the same things about when players take corners for them.
He has taken some good set pieces in free kicks on goal, but his corners have always been a little bit suspect since he came to Arsenal, I've got to say. Cam still feeling confident. 5 minutes to go.
I mean, I don't want to jinx us, to be honest with you. But at the moment,
Please do. Please do. Here's Alisson into Alexander-Arnold. Firmino does really well to come out on top of against three Arsenal players. Here's Wijnaldum. Looks for Diogo Jota. Salah just got in his way there. Maybe he's not that keen on helping the new boy, Lee.
Maybe not. I think that was a misunderstanding. It was a great run, a great ball from Wijnaldum, and it looked set up for Jota to take the shot at goal, but Salah was just trying to burst in the penalty area and ended up getting fully in the way. At 2-1, though, the Liverpool players can laugh at that. If it was 2-2, that would not be the case.
Here is Alexander-Arnold for Liverpool now. Arsenal have to start taking more risks now, surely. They can't get the ball at the moment. And this is where I'm a little bit disappointed. When you look at Pepe and Nketiah, who are both fresh, they're just not pressing with anywhere near the intensity required. And that's got to be disappointing to see as a manager.
I think so. I think that at this point you really need to be just applying a little bit more pressure. I mean, in that circumstance just there, it was too easy for Joe Gomez to step out of defence through the pressure. It's simple vertical movement from him. He carried the ball past two Arsenal attackers and then found the space to hit the ball over towards Jota. I think that you expect, if you're putting on fresh players, that they will be able to keep up the pressure, but Arsenal just seem to have not had that ability to press all game, which makes you question whether that was a deliberate tactical ploy from Arteta at some point.
Not looking forward to the social media meltdown that will follow this game if Arsenal are beaten, but it is important to remember that we're still developing as a side. And as I said earlier on, to be in this game for as long as we have is a vast improvement on any of the performances we've seen from Arsenal at Anfield in the league of late. Ball goes into the Arsenal penalty area. Lewis heads it to the edge of the box. Jota, he's found the back of the net. On his Liverpool debut, the former Wolverhampton Wanderers man has extended Liverpool's lead and put the game beyond doubt. It's Liverpool 3, Arsenal 1. And Cam, you must be delighted to see the new boy get on the score sheet.
Yeah, it hasn't actually gone in for me yet. I'm just watching it back now. It's good. It's just good initial positioning by Jota. You saw actually when the corner first came in, he took that position up on the edge of the box, and it doesn't look like he really moved throughout the whole thing. And obviously just wins that header and it's a good finish.
Apologies, the delay completely slipped my mind there. Just wanted to get your reaction to the new boy's goal. Lee, good finish from Jota, takes it on the knee and then just steers it into that far corner.
Very good. Yeah.
Well,
It's very good technique from him. Again, Cam's right. The position's good. He's central. He's just on the edge of the area in a position where you could expect the ball to drop to you there, and he took the chance very well when it dropped to him.
Not the best header in the world either by David Luiz, I don't think.
It's not the first time we've said that, and it won't be the last, I'm sure. Here is Jota. Just want that full-time whistle to go now. 89 minutes on the clock.
I think I heard your heart break a little bit, Harry, when that shot went in.
You know, it's so hard to do my job when the goals go in that you don't want to see go in. Lots of Arsenal fans in the chat not happy with the approach tonight, but I'm not sure what else anybody expected Mikel Arteta to do. Clearly hasn't got a team capable of going toe-to-toe with Liverpool. There aren't many teams in the Premier League that do. What, bar Manchester City?
There aren't many teams in the world that can. There aren't many teams out there that can. I think you could approach it the way that Bielsa did with Leeds and all-out attack and hope for the best, but then you're exposed at the back. So you have to, it's a very difficult balance of that to play this Liverpool side because they're so well coached. The players know each other so well. The tactical structure is so good and so balanced in attack and defence. They're extremely difficult to beat. I think that any team coming to Anfield is going to struggle.
Here is Jota again to the edge of the box for Wijnaldum. Looks for Alexander-Arnold towards the far post. It's a little bit too much on it. It's gone past everybody. 3 minutes of time added on at the end of this one. Liverpool 3, Arsenal 1. Liverpool going to make another change. It's Roberto Firmino who's going to make way for Takumi Minamino. Just signs lately that Minamino is starting to find his feet at Liverpool.
Yeah, great to see. He's a player who I've got a lot of time for. I really, really liked him at Salzburg. Made a lot of sense to come to Liverpool as that. I believe he was signed as that direct replacement and backup for Firmino because of his ability to play the same kind of positions. He likes to drop off the front line and pick up the ball in pockets of space the way Firmino does. It just takes him a little bit of time just to acclimatise to the British game, and that's normal. Jurgen Klopp was effusive in his praise for him pre-season, and you can see that he's getting more minutes now, which is great. But Liverpool are still pressing in the 92nd minute. They're still pushing up and still looking to stop Arsenal from playing through.
Relentless, aren't they? Cam, what's your take on Minamino? Is he someone who you've been impressed with of late? He's certainly picked up a little bit in terms of his performances.
Yeah, when he first came, he did struggle and was quite quiet in games. But I think now, coming into the season, it is almost like a new signing in a way. I think the role that he'll play, obviously you can substitute in Firmino if Firmino does pick up an injury. But you can also play kind of almost in a 4-2-3-1 as that number 10, which Naby Keita can also do. So I think both of those players pushing on post-lockdown was a massive bonus for Liverpool. And I'm expecting a much better showing this season from Minamino because, like Lee says, I do think he's an excellent player.
Around about a minute of stoppage time remaining. Jurgen Klopp will be delighted with the scoreline. Mikel Arteta not so pleased. Question marks before the game about the fact that he left Gabriel out, who's probably been Arsenal's best defender so far. Here's Aubameyang. He's done really well here. Aubameyang lays it off to Nicolas Pepe. I think it was Eddie Nketiah in the end who tried to get on the end of it. Aubameyang just frustrated figure. It's one of the few times actually that Arsenal have got him in behind, probably the only time.
Yeah, and that comes to the 93rd minute when the game's already gone and you see that he's unable to get the shot away because Liverpool are so good at recovering their defensive position, getting bodies around the ball and just preventing that easy shot goal.
Ball into the box, headed away by Gomez. Thankfully, Pepe didn't take that corner. Here's Ceballos. Full-time whistle goes at Anfield. Liverpool 3, Arsenal 1. Goals from Alexander Lacazette, Sadio Mane, Andy Robertson, and then, of course, Diogo Jota on his debut. Liverpool were the better side throughout. There's no doubt about that. Arsenal did have an opportunity, though, at 2-1, an opportunity that has gone begging. It's a deserved win for Liverpool at Anfield, and they continue to show what they can do in this Premier League, and it's going to take a hell of a team to stop them being crowned champions. once again. My thanks to Cam Megan and to Lee Scott. Cam, how can people find you on social media and keep up with your brilliant work?
Yep, so mainly just use Twitter. So my handle's at Cam_Megan. Post most of my articles on there.
Brilliant stuff. Lee, how can people keep up with you?
So you can find me on Twitter and social media at FM Analysis.
Brilliant stuff. That brings us to the end of another live watch along. Thank you to Total Football Analysis for letting us do this. We really, really enjoy it. And to those of you who have joined us throughout the broadcast, we hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the insight from the guys and me being visibly disappointed when Arsenal ended up losing the game. But until next time, take care. Keep an eye on the social channels and we'll keep you updated with what's coming next in the next 7 days or so. Take care.